When we listen with intentionality, when we listen with purpose, and when we listen with vulnerability, which is not to make assumptions, and it's to sit in the uncomfortable. I think when we listen really, really well, we are so focused on the other person that but you do have to sit with the ambiguity, and you have to sit in the vulnerability of not knowing what to say next, or not knowing what question you're going to ask next, or maybe just like having to sit in some silence. But I think for me, listening has become the center of leadership.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Michelle.
I feel like listeners are about to get a master class in leadership and in centering our humanity.
I felt like she offered us just profound depth and wisdom in everything she said. So I'm thrilled to share this interview with our listeners.
Awesome. Give the bio.
Okay, listeners, you're about to meet Sarah Brown Wessling. Sarah was a 2010 National Teacher of the Year, also a 26-year veteran of the high school English classroom, which is why I bet she has such a way with words. But she, after being National Teacher of the Year, she came back and she now leads and runs the National of the Year Teacher Program. And she speaks a lot about her role there, although she does say her heart will always be in the classroom, which I loved.
And you could tell
You could totally tell.
with her answers. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I think she views her work now as still in the classroom, just the classroom of adults, really highly functioning adults, too, with a big group of Teachers of the Year, right? Sarah was the teacher laureate for the Teaching Channel for many years, which was interesting. She's also the author of Supporting Students in a Time of Core Standards. And I think she's about to blow everyone's mind. So shall we listen?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
This is so long overdue. The
It
second
really is.
I learned about you, I was like, I need an hour to just walk around in your brain. So it's happening today.
It is happening, and likewise. So it's been a long time in coming for sure.
Well, for our listeners, just to contextualize you, I learned about you through Rebecca Peterson, who was one of our favorite interviews that we still reference all the time. And we still hear from people that they listen to it on repeat.
Oh, I am not surprised to hear that at all. She is so wise and so thoughtful, and just has this incredible sense of the profession on so many different levels.
I concur. And is she representative of the Teachers of the Year that you support in the program? Like, is this what we're talking about, 50 states wide?
Yeah. So Rebecca is the 2023 National Teacher of the Year. And the National Teacher of the Year program has been in existence since 1952. And it's the oldest, most prestigious teacher recognition program in the country. Each year, states and territories all have their own processes in which they select their state territory teacher of the year, and then they come to the National Teacher of the Year program. And many things happen during that year. One of the greatest things is the way the cohort of teachers is able to meet each other, learn each other, collaborate, and just really build, in most cases, like lifelong connections and friendships. But then, and the teachers all go through a year of professional learning. And so that's amazing. But then parallel to that is the process of selecting the National Teacher of the Year. And so Rebecca went through that process and was selected in 2023.
And you also, that's how you came to know about the program, right? And then now lead it.
Yes, that is. My origin story is kind of funny. I learned about the program. I guess I kind of knew there was a National Teacher of the Year, but I didn't really know there was a National Teacher of the Year. So way back in probably it was 2009. Uh, I got a letter in the mail one day after school, and it was from the Iowa Department of Education telling me that I had been nominated for the Iowa Teacher of the Year. And there were, and I was like, oh, that's great. But I have three, actually at the time, two very little children. I need to make dinner. I am 6 weeks out from the end of the school year. I have no time to think about any of this. So I threw the letter off to the side. And then when the school year was done, I opened it back up and I thought, I just want to do this process because I have some things about teaching and learning I want to say. And so I, spent the next 3 weeks just working on all of these essays and just really thinking about, actually doing more like a deep dive into my own, sensibilities about the work that we do. And so then I was selected as the Iowa Teacher of the Year. And then I found out I was a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year, which I was like completely dumbfounded by. I thought like you had to, I don't know, teach in a hurricane or something to be a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year.
Metaphorically, all educators
That's
do.
this is also true. This is also true. And and then lo and behold, after a several day interview process, I was selected, and it was just an incredible, the whole process was incredible. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the profession. And that was just the application process. Then once I was named and, took on this role of ambassadorship for the next year, then I, of course, had this incredible learning curve and trajectory. But even just the interview process, it's the kind of professional learning I think in so many ways every professional deserves. Yeah.
That mixture of honoring someone and simultaneously growing them is so pristine. And I
Yeah.
feel like just through knowing Rebecca, now it seems like you all have really figured that out.
Well, I think that's the goal, right? Like that's the goal of what happens when we elevate, when we elevate within the profession. I say this all the time. I really believe that when we elevate one, we elevate all. When we do that in a local district, we elevate one, we're elevating all at the state, at the national level. So I think there definitely is an importance to elevating. But I think the real gift is not in the title. It's not in the accolade. It's not in the elevation. It's in the way that opens you up, right? Like it opens you up to growth if you are willing to take that on. Because, we all know this. Growth is not always easy. It's not always fun. Sometimes it's lovely and sometimes it's painful. And I think that that's what this process offers, right? This process invites you to use the elevation as an open door to growing in the ways that you want to and need to.
I feel like that's the human invitation. Like
Yeah.
that's what we're on the planet to do.
Yeah.
And there are fewer and fewer elegant structures to support that. So I'm just in awe and so appreciative of what you all do and how you do it.
Oh, thank you. It's just everything is built on incredible teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and built around them and for them. And it is, my heart will always be in the classroom. My heart will always be in the classroom. And at the same time, doing this work is the honor of my life. It really is.
Wow. You mentioned that when you decided to apply, you had some things you wanted to say about teaching and
Yeah.
learning. I'm super curious what those were and how they've shifted over time with the view you have.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And so interesting. I went back and read my application maybe about 6 months ago, and it is the first time that I had read it in nearly 15 years. Um, and it was really interesting because almost everything in it is still true today.
Oh,
Almost everything. The only things that are not true are some of the details, right? So instead of talking about, now we're talking about cell phones and AI. And at the time, when I was writing this, we were talking about, earlier technologies,
8 tracks and
right? maybe not that early. But, so I think that there are some like contextual things that certainly are different, but it was really heartwarming for me to go back and read it. And really, my application is grounded in a lot of student stories. And those are universal. And the way that students taught me how to be a better teacher, like that doesn't leave you. That
Yeah.
doesn't change. Like that's in you, right? When somebody like it's just in you. And so in that way, I feel like I get to carry not only those stories, but just the stories of so many teachers, or excuse me, so many students, and teachers alike, because I affectionately, I affectionately tell the cohorts of State Teachers of the Year that I want to be the teacher they deserve. That is my goal. My goal is to be the teacher they deserve.
Incredible. The
Yeah.
teacher of teachers. What an honor.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. It really is. And I hope that's how they see me, right? Because, it's also would be easy to I think lean into the part of the work, right? That is about spreadsheets, and the part of the work that's about planning and press releases, and all of those things are necessary, right?
Yeah.
And all of those things are essential. And still I hope what they see is a teacher more than anything else.
And I hear kind of a subtext in everything you've said so far around what happens between and among them, that community building, and also what happens between and among you and them.
Yeah.
It just sounds like that relational piece is probably the most powerful alchemy. I don't know. Tell
Yeah.
me.
Absolutely. I love that word as an alchemy. That's a beautiful word. So I think a couple of things happen, right? So first of all, I think I learned from my students, how essential it is to create spaces that feel different than school.
Ooh.
Right? Like I had to create spaces where students could come and they could feel like it was more than I'm going to a class and I'm doing things to get a grade. Right? Of course, there are students who felt like that. I mean, I taught for 26 years. Of course, I did not get everybody. But, that absolutely was the goal, was to take classes, and I would get them for 48 minutes a day, and to turn that into a community, right? Where they not only learned from me and I not only learned from them, but I knew they had to learn from each other. And I knew they had to learn from each other because I think this is one of like the difficult truths about teaching. Like comes this day, I think every school year, and when as a teacher, you've done your job, if you can walk out of the classroom and they don't need you anymore.
Wow.
And it is simultaneously the most heartwarming and the saddest thing, right? Because you've done your job for them to not need you anymore, right? So there's just, I think, this ongoing sense that we are always working towards letting go, which is a hard thing to do, because you
Yeah.
want to hang on. But here's the thing that's really beautiful within that. I can let go when I know they have each other,
Right.
right? I know
It's
that
not
I
that
can let
top
go.
down. It's
No,
that everyone's
right.
holding the culture.
Absolutely. And so what was true in my classroom has become true in these spaces as
Wow.
well. And I know that in order for the work to live on, it doesn't flow through me, it flows through them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that is the alchemy. That is where the magic lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so my role is to, not only to bring them together, but create safe spaces, right? And create spaces where everyone is seen and we can embrace our differences as well as our similarities. And we can be honest and we can be vulnerable and we can be forgiving and, like all of the things that you have to do like when you are in a living, breathing, community. And so it's just, yeah, they do. They need each other in order for the work to live on, far more than they need me.
I'm just thinking about like 50 plus. Is it 50?
56,
56.
56.
56 high performing, high achieving, introspective, choosing to step into growth educators,
Yeah, yeah,
and like creating the container for them
yeah,
to lean into their own growth,
yeah.
lean into each other, lean into their purpose. Like it just sounds like magic and a dream job.
It is a dream job. And I think, I also think it is a magical experience when it happens, but it doesn't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's the other thing. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen in the classroom when teachers create this. It doesn't just happen anywhere.
Very
Um,
intentional.
it is very, very intentional. And I think all of the intentionality underneath the community building and underneath the elevation, right? Right. I mean, we started this conversation kind of talking about big elevation with titles and things like that. But I think about the ways that I elevate students every day, the way that I elevate, the people I'm in conversation with every day. And I think it's those micro moments
Mm.
that like they still hold the same opening, right?
Mm.
They still hold the same potential for an open door and growth. And I think that's what it means to be seen, right?
That's
That's what it
exactly
means.
the
That's what
words
it
that were
means to be
going off in my
seen.
head. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I see you, I know you,
Yeah.
I value you. I love the putting together micro moments and elevation. Like
Hmm.
it's so profound because it's like, okay, then the opportunity for that
Right.
is second to second, moment to moment, all day long,
Right.
every day, with
Yeah.
every single soul we encounter,
Absolutely.
students, coworkers,
Absolutely.
people we meet just randomly. Yeah, it's so electric to think about
Hmm.
that you
It
can
is.
be interacting with people all day long in a way that either closes them or opens them.
Yeah. I absolutely. Um I've told this story a couple of times this maybe a year ago. I was in a Trader Joe's. I was standing in line and at the checkout and I see this man like run in and he goes straight to how Trader Joe's has all the
Yeah.
flowers in the front. Okay.
Yeah.
So he goes straight to the orchids. He has the biggest smile on his face. He grabs this orchid and he like completely like cuts in front of me in line because he's so excited to buy this orchid. And I'm just letting him, because in my mind, because I'm watching this whole thing, and in my mind, I'm like, here is this person, and he is so excited, and he is got this orchid, and then I start imagining who he's taking this orchid to, right? All of these things, and so he pays, and then he walks out, and then he comes back, and he said, "Oh, ma'am," he said, I didn't even realize that I cut in front of you. And he said, why didn't you say something? And I said, because you're so happy. And he said, no, actually, he said, and then he like stopped me and he said, no, actually, I am like a speaker and I do keynotes and I'm a trainer. And I actually want to know why you didn't stop me.
Yeah.
And I said, it's because the story I told myself about you when I saw you walk in the door. I saw you walk in the door and I told myself this story about you that was so beautiful that I was so happy to watch you walk in front of me. And, you know, I know it's like a random grocery store anecdote, but this is also, I think, how I choose to approach the work, right? Like every student who walks through the door, right? Every teacher that walks into a space, like this is the choice. Like it's the choice of the story that I want to see in them. And I think that that's where the elevation comes from, right? And that's where the intentionality comes from.
And there's always room around the story we tell ourselves, either to
Yeah.
just like double down on if it's opening space and creating room for growth, or really kind of take a harder look at it if it's creating that closed
Absolutely.
tension, ick feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think maybe this is just age, right? I mean, I hear myself saying that more, more all the time.
Same. How interesting are birds? Let me just
Right?
ask you that.
Exactly. I know, right? Right? They're so interesting, especially when I'm running. It's like I'm counting the birds when I'm running. But I think, you know, I'm just more, I believe in the goodness in people differently. I just do. I think a younger version of myself was more competitive than collaborative. A younger version of myself was so focused on being the very best teacher that I could, that I didn't always see the goodness around me, you know? And so I think it's a lesson that I've learned, and one that I've been really grateful to have learned, that this is a change that I've made personally and professionally. And I think it serves the spaces that I'm in, you know, in really important ways.
Yeah, I mean, that right there, that notion that opening up your aperture to kind of see the goodness not only changes our experience of our lives dramatically without any external factors having to shift, but it also feels to me like you're voting for the universe. You know, you're like,
Yeah.
there's like a
Yeah.
vote for who we
Yes.
might become when you live like what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of me has come to believe that the foremost skill in all of this is listening. It's what I really have come to believe. That when we listen with intentionality, when we listen with purpose, and when we listen with vulnerability, which is not to, it's not to make assumptions, and it's to sit in the uncomfortable. I think when we listen really, really well, we are so focused on the other person that but you do have to sit with the ambiguity, and you have to sit in the vulnerability of not knowing what to say next, or not knowing what question you're going to ask next, or maybe just like having to sit in some silence. But I think for me, listening has become the center of leadership. And I think when I was younger, I thought talking was I thought that that's what it was. I thought if I had good things to say, if I had the right things to say, that's what leadership looked and sounded like. And I just have seen a shift for sure.
I mean, should we end the episode right there? That's so actionable. Like that's
Yeah.
so powerful and it's so actionable. Like every one of us can dial in to what you're
Yeah.
talking about relating to listening. Even a couple degrees,
Yeah.
it would shift our relationships and
Yeah.
shift our own nervous system.
Absolutely. I remember like learning this, because of course a shift like that is something that happens gradually over time. And I remember even in the classroom, making the distinct decision to manage large group discussions differently. So I had a practice where I oftentimes would record myself and then I would analyze my lessons. Like, I mean, I like very serious
You were
practitioner in that sense.
serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw and heard myself when I was in doing large group discussion that I would often say to a student, tell me more about that, which is fine.
Mhm.
But then I learned that over time, what I needed to do is say, well, tell us more about that. Not just
Mm.
me, right? Not just me. Tell us more about that. Or I would say, a student would offer a response or a contribution. And then I would say, well, how does that connect to what this other student just said? Right. And so I found myself over time taking myself out of the center, but it was a deliberate, like gradual practice, and it had to be a practice, right? It had to be
Yeah.
something that I had to kind of like rewire my brain to do,
Yeah.
and so I had to pay attention to it. And then of course, like with all change, you don't, like, sometimes you forget and you go back to muscle memory,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then you remember it's about us, it's not about me.
I think the culture is so enforcing of this notion that we should be centering ourselves that
Hmm.
when someone experiences the power of decentering
Hmm.
themselves, like what you're describing, it can be, first of all, yes, it takes effort because it's counterculture.
Right.
And then when you have a taste of it, it can be so joyful and freeing
Yes.
and like an experience of like, oh, this is what this can feel like to be
Right.
spinning this web that's community centric and us centric instead of
Yeah.
me centric.
Yeah.
It kind of like reinforces itself because it feels so good when you do
Right.
get a taste of
Right.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the other thing that I learned was that if I were to center myself, I needed to center myself in mistake. So if I needed to be the center, then it really needed to be about a mistake that I made and what I
Yeah.
learned from it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or what I used to think and what I think now, or so because I really believe, and I've believed this for a really long time, that whenever anybody would come into the classroom or into a learning space, that we all get elevated to the status of learner, that there has to be a flattening of the hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways that the person who's traditionally at the top of the hierarchy, right? So if you're the teacher, you're traditionally at the top of the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways to flatten that is to be vulnerable. One of the ways to flatten that is to center yourself in your, like, the messiness of your humanity,
Yeah.
not in your perfection.
Oh, we're gonna have to end it again. Oh my God. Yes, I remember having those feelings when I was doing more leadership work,
Hmm.
of like, it's a we when we win, it's an I when we
Yeah.
struggle. And it makes such a difference it offers you some liberation, but also
Right.
invites liberation across the
It
board
does. It
around
does.
our humanity and just like
Absolutely.
you said, the messiness
Yeah.
of growth and stumbles and all the things.
Yeah. And I think one of the great gifts for me has been, certainly to learn that there are differences, obviously, between working with students and adults, but there are a lot of similarities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and people want to be cared for, people want to be safe, people want to have space. One of the things I always tell the teachers when I, work with them in the program is that everything is by invitation. And at first I think they don't always know what I mean by that, but I mean, they know what I mean by that, but I don't think they know if I actually mean what I'm saying.
Right.
Because so often as professionals, people might say you're invited to this, but it's really you're not really invited. Like you're being asked to comply, right?
Mhm.
And I think that one of the things that I've learned is that really embracing this idea of this is by invitation, which means if you decide you need to leave, I don't love you any less.
Mhm.
If you decide this is not for you, I don't love you any less, but it will still be here. And if you
Mhm.
decide in a month or 6 months or a year or 5 years that it is for you, like the invitation is not going to close, right? The invitation will always be open. And I think that one of the things I've learned is that extending that true freedom to
Mm.
people actually brings them closer.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
really doesn't push them away,
Mm-mm.
because it brings them closer. Because when they join, they're doing it because they've chosen it, not because they're complying. And I think that's so powerful.
There's so much generosity in that.
Hmm.
And there's so much trust in another person's
Hmm.
professionalism and another person's navigating of their life circumstances
Yeah,
and knowing what makes sense when.
yeah,
It
because
also
it's
makes
true.
it,
I was
yeah,
gonna
and
say, yeah, we have so much in our lives, right? There's so much in our lives. Yeah.
it makes me think too about your earlier comments around the story I tell myself. Like, I
Hmm.
think very often people who are in charge of cohorts, we tell ourselves stories that like constrict because
Hmm.
we're worried about, good, we care about the
Of
outcome or
course, of
whatever.
course, of
But
course.
when you come at it from that generosity and you're telling yourself the story of the other person's need to step away or whatever in the
Right.
most generous, most expansive way, then it's like moths to a flame. It's like, oh, it feels really good to be here. I
Right.
get more than
Yeah.
it's asking of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to embrace that notion of invitation, you have to equally hold yourself accountable to not judge,
Hmm.
right? So I don't think you can say I'm inviting you and then bestow any judgment whatsoever, right? I think it's what you said. It's the opposite, right? It comes with trust. And the trust is that, you will make the decision that is best for you right now. And this is, and it's strange because this is also kind of like a personal way of being in the world that I have kind of embraced. I've never been a person who does like 5-year plans or 10-year plans or anything like that. My way of being in the world has always been a commitment to making the most honest choice for what's in front of me right now, and the belief that if I do really good work right then, that the next most honest opportunity is going to come and I'll get to make another choice, right? And so it's and I think that because of that mindset, I have learned to let go of judgment, right? I've learned that the plan is not as important as presence. It is like the present moment that is far more important than the plan.
And that capacity to sort of trust yourself and trust the wisdom of the moment and trust that you've developed your guidelines in terms of what honesty looks like, what integrity looks like, what aligning with your values looks like. That to me feels increasingly more important as the world
Mhm.
gets wilder and more complex and less,
Yeah.
more, uh, is that even real? Is it, there's
Yeah.
just so much stuff out here that we
Right.
can't trust.
Yep.
And so you can either get paralyzed by that,
Mhm.
including school systems and, all
Absolutely.
the way up and down, or you can know that that is what it is.
Right.
And do I trust myself?
Yeah.
Do I trust my own guiding compass, whatever I've set that out to be?
Yeah. Well, it's listening again, right? I mean, it's listening. It's listening to yourself. It's having the courage to listen to yourself. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think that's again like just so central to the work of moving forward is being present now.
How did you become this? Like, what is your story?
That's so interesting. Um, I guess I don't even see myself as like a this, right? Um, I mean, I've always I've always been introspective. I remember my first grade teacher called my mom and we were reading a set of these books, and at the end of the book was always like a little lesson or something like that. Um, and they had a lot of metaphors in them. And my first grade teacher called my mom one day and she said, I just want you to know that I've asked Sarah to not give the answer right away. She seems to know what's going to be at the end of the book before we get to the end. And so I just want you to know, and I just want you to be able to reinforce at home that she's not in trouble.
We just need to give the other little bits
Yeah.
time to catch up.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's certainly something there. I think my dad is a very wise person. Um, I think my relationship with literature
Mm.
has a lot to do with it. I mean, you know, I'm a high school English teacher for all of these years, that my master's is in literature. You know, I have a profound reverence um, just for the human condition, I think.
Hmm.
And not everything's been good for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not everything has been easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those times and those moments can really illuminate, you know, illuminate this life. So I think I think it has a lot to do with that. I also am a very reflective person. It's really important to me. Whether it's like videotaping myself and like analyzing my, you know, pedagogy and my craft, or whether it's seeking solitude. And I think that's really important. I've been a single mom for almost 16 years. And so I being able to find solitude in that space is pretty important, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think even having to explain to my children, now they're older now, so they understand now, but for a long time, like it was a hard thing for me to explain to them why mom needs to go. Mom needs to go by herself to this national park, and like she's not going to be able to talk to you every day for just a few days. Just a few days.
Yeah.
And I would do that, you know, I would go, I'd choose a place, I would do these solo hikes, and I would walk until I found myself again.
Whew.
And then, so I think it's, you know, I think it's just a combination of lots of good things and some tough things and lots of introspection.
Do you see your children adapting or adopting any of those sort of ways of coping, ways of being in the world, or are they doing really different things?
I hope so. I mean, I hope, you know, as a parent, I think one of the most difficult things about parenting is that, gosh, we just don't know right now if we're doing the right thing or not.
Right.
We just don't know. Like we'll know 10 years from now if we did the right thing or not 10
Right.
years ago. But we just don't know.
'Cause how old are your babies?
So now I have a 22-year-old, a newly 20-year-old, and a 16-year-old.
Okay.
But when I was named the National Teacher of the Year, my 16-year-old was a 4-month-old in the Oval Office with President Obama. Yeah, I
What?
mean, like just a
That's
little baby.
amazing. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. So just, quite the trajectory. But yeah, I mean, I think, and I see it differently in them. They're all three of them are wired very differently, and I'm so grateful for that. Really, I don't think I could handle two of any of them. I say that with all kinds of love.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think one of them especially, I think, is very much like into conflict resolution. He does a lot of conflict resolution really, really well. And I think, my daughter is really analytic, and like I really appreciate that about her. I think my youngest is just he's very generous. He's very, very generous. Um, like in thought, in word, So I hope that I'm passing on some of those things. I hope that, I get this even more than I hope I'm passing it on to them. What I hope is that they see these qualities in me as something valuable enough to try to foster in themselves.
Yeah.
That's
Find their
really what I
own
hope.
version
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lovely.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking again about your access to these incredible humans coming together and telling each other and themselves the truth about their professions,
Yeah.
their growth, their dreams. What do you think the general population is getting wrong about educators and education right now?
Well, I don't think we're listening. Right. So I think that's the first thing. I think, it's a unique profession in that everyone who has been in school kind of thinks that they understand school. Right. And it is true that they understand their experience of it. Right. Like I absolutely don't want to take that away from anyone, because that's important and we have to honor that, because not everybody had a good experience in school and not everybody had, and we have to honor that. But I think because of that, I think folks can be quick to make assumptions about what it means to teach, what it means to be a school leader, what it means to be a supporter of educators, what it means to be a paraprofessional, what it means to be a bus driver, and I think what people largely don't understand is the complexity of it. I think that's largely what people don't understand.
That's
If
so
they
interesting.
if they understood really how complex it is to help someone learn, I think we could all take a deep breath a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that the way you talk about kind of the excessive armchair quarterbacking that happens because we all went to school and
Yeah.
we think we understand, that's so helpful to hear it like that. And it just makes me think about like your example of being so serious about your craft that you understood the difference of tell me more versus tell us more. And that's what's happening in classrooms across the country. That level of complexity to create the container for students to learn and communities to thrive. And to not have that understood can feel like moral injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think the best classrooms are places of healing, really. I mean, those are the best classrooms, and not that everybody comes needing to be healed. I don't mean to suggest that, but I do mean that growth stretches us, right? And growth requires requires us to be vulnerable. It requires us to not be alone. Right. And so I hope that the best classrooms are learning spaces. And I use that word classroom, and whenever I use it, I simultaneously think of a conference room that I'm in with teachers, right?
Yeah.
Just as much as I'm thinking about room 506. But I think when those spaces are places of belonging, and when those spaces are places where people can be honest, and feel safe, then I think we breathe differently. Right. And that part is healing. And I think, at different points in time, we all need that. I don't know that we all need it all the time. Right. But we all need it sometime.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch at all.
Yeah.
I'm just being in the world. You need belonging, you need safety, you
Yeah.
need healing, and you need those things for your prefrontal cortex to come online.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
prerequisite.
It is. And I think it's those conditions allow students to learn to read. Those conditions are the things that allow students to not be afraid of numbers. These are right. So it's not just come to a place and we all feel good, right? This is like, let's come to a place where we feel good so that we can all grow. And grow in, right? And grow in these ways so that when you don't need me anymore, you are on your path to being a scientist. You are on the path to being an artist. You are on the path to being a mathematician or a welder, right? So I think it's also important to, like, in this conversation about humanity, which is the center of it, but to remember that is also what has to be in place in order for all of this other learning to take place.
100%. At the adult level and at the kid
Absolutely.
level. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Katie Worden, District Partnership Lead for TackieBox, an elementary program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool and daily practice to help kids self-monitor their words, actions, and relationships. It's proven to reduce behavior incidents by 66%. Students build self-awareness, self-regulation, and real connection. And it's a light lift for teachers with a profound impact on well-being. Visit tackiebox.com to bring it to your campus.
What are you hearing from all of these state teachers of the year, national teachers of the year around their own practices related to well-being?
So I think that everybody approaches it, but not always the same, right? And some of that is because somebody maybe has been teaching 5 years and somebody has been teaching 50 years. Somebody teaches in a one-room schoolhouse and somebody teaches in the largest district in the country, right? So it's so fascinating to, like, bring people from such divergent contexts, and bring them together and listen to them learn from each other. So, and I think the well-being is certainly something that has a lot of euphemisms, right? Like, it can be taking care of each other, it can be setting boundaries. Like there are lots of ways to talk about what that means. I think at the center of it, though, well-being for all of us is the safety, right? Right? It is the safety. Sometimes I talk to, because I certainly get to coach teachers a lot. And sometimes I talk to them about monitoring their energy as an act of practicing well-being. That in so many ways, rather than thinking of well-being as like donuts on Friday or a massage on Saturday, right? Like, rather than thinking of it that way, what if we think about this commodity of energy? Like, how much do I have right now? How much is coming in? How much am I putting out? Like, and I think if we can monitor that, it can help us listen to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of sometimes like to reframe that conversation or that question just a little bit.
I love that. That feels like a dial that you can be thinking about all day long, every day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where am I? What is this going to
Yeah.
cost me? Do I have it to give?
Yeah.
If I want to do it but don't have it to give, what inputs of energy do
Yep.
I need in order to do it? Like
Yep.
all of those things.
Yep. Well, I think it's a universal truth that when you say yes to one thing, you say no to something else,
Mm-hmm.
whether you mean to or not, right?
Right.
So we are always making these choices.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of well-being is becoming cognizant of the choices,
Mm.
you know,
Mhm.
and being in control of the choices instead of the choices being in control of you.
Yeah, it's a profoundly different lived
Yeah.
experience, even though you
Yeah.
might be showing up in the same rooms doing the same things. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Of all of the years as a teacher and then now teacher of teachers,
Mhm.
what has surprised you good and what has surprised you bad?
Oh, so many good. Oh, the goodness so outweighs the bad.
Which is huge in
I
and of itself.
I mean, it does. It's it's like the student that like finally lifts their head off the desk, or like there's so many moments like that. I think
Mm.
um or certainly with teachers, um I think the best moments for me, and this actually is true in the classroom too, um is when I see them being generous to each other, right? That's the that's the most those are the most beautiful moments. Like when you are sitting back, you are on the outside of it, right?
Mhm.
And you're watching them take care of each other. I
Mhm.
think those are for me always the most beautiful moments. There's so many from the classroom, so many moments that I can hardly retell the stories without crying, just thinking about how students showed up for each other, but then to see that in adults, with with different capacity, it's really incredible. So I think I don't know if I'm surprised, but certainly reaffirmed over and over and over again. And what has surprised me, like negatively, I think this might be me just, I probably shouldn't be this naive. Um, but I think I sometimes still get surprised by people who don't trust teachers
Mhm. Mhm.
or don't trust that they have the best interest of students at heart, or that they are seeing a larger picture,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? This is, I mean, this happened to me as a classroom teacher, certainly, where there were some, experiences where parents wondered if like,
Mhm.
am I doing the right thing? You know? And I think that's hard. That's really hard.
It's really hard and I'm surprised by that, and I'm also surprised by people who are not tracking on the cost of that
Mhm. Right.
for the educator, for their child, or
Yeah.
students, for our future leaders and future
Yeah.
generations. Like the cost of undermining our educators with either, I don't know if you made the right decision, I don't trust your intentions, I don't trust
Mhm.
your professionalism. Those things are so, to me, it's like 3 alarm fire
Yeah.
cost rate,
Yeah.
cost
Right.
analysis.
Absolutely. Which is not to say that we don't make mistakes, right? I
Right,
think there's a
right.
those are
Very
very
different.
different. I mean, yeah, certainly I've made all kinds of mistakes, and and I've always been grateful for the colleague or the administrator or the parent,
Yeah,
who helped me see how
yeah,
I could get better or I could grow
yeah,
differently. And so I think that's like a different category,
yeah,
right? I think
yeah,
it's like the questioning of
yeah.
intention.
Yes.
And I think when that happens too often to teachers or systems, I think the teachers and the systems start self-censoring.
Yes.
And I think that they start to pull back. And I think they start to do things that become less individualized, right? And I think that's dangerous. That's dangerous. And when I say self-censoring, I mean I mean like self-censoring in your practice.
Yeah, no, I get
Right?
it. Like
Yeah.
it becomes safer to show up muted
Yes,
than to
exactly.
show up as your full
Exactly.
self. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Before we close, two things. One, I want to hear, you've already dropped so many clear nuggets of wisdom, but I want to hear if there's anything else you want to share about if someone's listening, they're having a hard day, feeling a little beaten up. What is, from your seat, what do you have to say to them?
That you are not alone, even though I know you feel like you are. You know, it's such a tough place to be, when you have lost your energy, when you have lost your purpose, when you feel alone and you feel isolated. And I've certainly been there. You know, I've certainly been there. And, you know, what worked for me wouldn't necessarily work for others. But I did have to find community, and I had to find it in the places I didn't expect. And so sometimes, you know, that meant getting out of my classroom, that meant getting out of my district, it even meant getting out of my state, right? Like I had to really widen. And the other thing that I had to do, I had to be willing to show up in places that I didn't feel comfortable at first. Right? And I think this is just kind of true in life, you know? And you kind of have to keep showing up. So I joined this running group a few years ago. And I remember, and I'd known about it for a long time. And I thought, well, maybe I should go, maybe I shouldn't go. I had it like on my calendar, you know, for like 6 months. And every Thursday would come and I'd be like, maybe next Thursday. Every Saturday would come, maybe next Saturday. So finally I go, right? And like the first time you go, you're like, where do I park? Where, like, who do I talk to? What if nobody here, like, what if there's nobody here that I like, that wants me to be here? What if I am slower than everybody else that's running? You know, what if I can't keep up? All of the things. And I think we have to remember that when we are lonely or when we are needing community, that it doesn't change magically. Right. And it takes a little bit of perseverance. And so the first time that I went to the running group, my life did not change. The second time, my life did not change. The sixth time, it did not change. But by about the 10th, 12th time, I was like, something is different.
Wow.
You know, something is different. I don't know, my life has totally changed, but something is different.
Another layer of the net underneath you.
Yes, exactly. And so, you know, I think that it is important for teachers to look to whatever their version of that is. You know, and that was like, you know, a version in my more personal life, but I've absolutely done that in my professional life. Where I have joined an organization where I felt really out of place until I didn't. You know, and so
good advice.
Yeah.
Such good advice. And it's so interesting that community is where you went with that, because as you've been talking during this time, I kept having this image of like either a weaver or an orchestra director, a community weaver or a orchestra community conductor. I don't know, but like that kept coming up for me of just like, oh, that's what Sarah's about. Like she's very intentionally and very expertly weaving community or conducting community, finding themselves and finding their spot. And it's just so cool.
Oh, thank you. It's a lovely sentiment.
Yeah. Before we close, is there
Yeah.
anything you wanted to make sure we talked about that we didn't go toward yet?
It's been a really lovely conversation. This has just been
Same.
beautiful conversation.
Same here.
Yeah,
It's been
it
such
really
a joy
has
to
been.
get to know you a bit.
Yeah, this has been wonderful.
Well, thank you for your time. I know it's precious, and thank you for being that weaver, that
Thank
conductor for our amazing educators. And I know you are working with 56 at a time. I guess 57 because the national and
The
then the
national comes
56.
from the 56.
Okay. And so in any given year, do you have 56 plus the national or 55 plus the national?
55 plus the national. So
Okay, so the
so
cohort is 56.
so the cohort is 56, and then the national teacher comes from that cohort.
And they serve the following year as national. So do they end up serving 2 years? One is their state or
It depends. It really depends on how the state calendar
okay,
works.
got it.
So because every state and territory is very different, and so the way that the calendar works is a little bit different. Yeah, so that really varies. I think the best part though is, they have kind of this year of service, but I don't feel like that's the end, right? Certainly things change, right? Like your relationship changes, and their work changes, and their trajectory changes. Like all of those things change, but it doesn't stop. I think
They
that's
stay part of the org and they go in and out and
they go in and out, and they stay connected to each other. And so I think it's that that hope that what I participate in building is just not about me, right? That is about them.
I want to be in one of your cohorts. just having an hour with you, I trust you. Like I trust your capacity to create that safe container.
Thank you.
That invites growth.
Yeah, thank you. It really
Thank
is. It's a
you.
special, special thing.
Well, it really is. It genuinely is. From the outside looking in, it's remarkable what's happening and what y'all are doing, and to hear more about it's been a gift. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Just a joy.
Bye.
Bye.
I feel like exhaling.
I understand why.
Yeah.
I feel like her mastery of language to communicate really deep truths is poetic and remarkable.
That's so well said. Yes, that is why it hits that perfect note. It's her capacity to kind of hand it to you in such a palatable, engaging way.
And in just, very short, distinct poetic statements. And that's a mastery of language, I believe.
You know what I was thinking as I was re-listening? I was thinking that she may be one of those people walking around in the world that doesn't share her insights unless asked, because she does so well at the listening and the centering others and creating the containers. But I feel like in that 1 hour, we barely scratched the surface of what we have to learn from this incredible woman. So I'm hoping other people keep digging. Like I think there's just so much more there for mining in that one human.
Yes, and we should say that she does have a website that's her name, sarahbrownwessling.com. I don't know how much you delved into that, but I certainly plan to.
Yes, yeah. So we can keep tapping that even outside of this interview. That's perfect.
Yeah, I loved it. Where should we start?
The thing that I thought the most about between the interview and this debrief was the way she talked about, yes, there's incredible importance in elevating. In fact, that's a whole nother point we should probably talk about. The whole elevating one elevates all major. But she said the real gift is not in the title, the accolade, and it's not in the elevation. It's in the way that opens you up to growth if you're willing to take it on.
And then you followed that with, that's the human invitation, why we're here. And I loved that. That was my opening point too. I also felt like just listening to her story and imagining this single mom with little kids getting the invitation to fill out the application, how amazing that she had the curiosity and the courage to complete it, because it opened that door, and then she had the courage to walk through the door that now put her in this work that she called the honor of her lifetime. She said her heart's always in the classroom, but this work is the honor of her lifetime. And had she not been curious and brave, she wouldn't have found it.
And did you notice what happened to her voice when she said, I had things to say about teaching and learning? Like, that came from her, like, gut. It was just like, it was something, go back and listen when you have time, because something that drove her in that moment of young children, single mom, full-time working chaos, that drove her to find the time to sit down, write the essays, think about what she wanted to say, think about her own thinking. Like, I felt it in my gut when she said it. It stopped me cold. I
Okay,
had things to say about teaching and learning.
that's
And it made
interesting, because that adds to kind of her mastery of words and language. She also understands her voice and herself. Like, she has a command of her voice, her own voice, which is, I guess, what was stirred in that moment.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I didn't pick up on the voice, but I picked up on the combination of the words teaching and learning. And I started thinking a lot about that, because I think my experience as a child, for the most part, was more one-way teaching, like being talked to. But what she was describing was this two-way reciprocal relationship. And so it made me think the excellent teachers are also lifelong learners. And so many of the people who've come on the podcast have referenced being a lifelong learner. So that just made a lot of sense to me. But those two words paired together, I loved. And she said that more than one time.
She did. And in addition to what you said, it also makes me think about how she spoke about the complexity of how someone learns and creating the conditions for students to learn, and how much energy she spent like leaning into giving her students an experience that didn't feel like, I might not be getting the words wrong, but what I'm remembering is didn't feel like school, like to open up that learning in them. That also, that reciprocal, that it's not, that great teaching happens if learning is happening. If you're doing great teaching, but there's a disconnect between whatever brilliant thing you're doing and how the students, or in her case, the teachers of the year, how they're receiving it, how safe they feel, how all the things she spoke to, then who cares?
Right.
It has to be the pairing.
Yes. I thought a lot about, because I don't think my younger self, and maybe it was because I just wasn't there to learn, so I wasn't positioned as a learner, right? But I think now my midlife self learning at a place like MEA, which is a modern wisdom school, learning there, it's a totally different experience because everything is so two-way. And I just kind of went down this whole utopian visioning around what if every classroom was like that and every child got to have that experience. It would be game changing. So
And it is game changing all day long, every day across our country, in classroom after classroom after classroom. And I think one of the things she's hoping in elevating one to elevate all, and we're hoping when we elevate the voices of educators to elevate all, is that all the teachers doing that get a little like, oh, this is game changing. What we're doing is complex. It's art. It's science. It's it's radical what we're doing. And then get up and do it
Yes.
again. And get up and do it
Yes.
again. And get up and do it
Yes.
again.
Yes. I also loved on that note, because I think that's part of the art that you're describing is happening, the intentionality of creating that safe space. And that, like, it doesn't just magically happen. There's so much intention that goes into that. And we see that in lots of places in our life as adults, but I don't think that the average person, because I didn't, and I'm the average person, right, that wasn't super proximate to education until recently. It's overlooked that is a piece of the art that's happening.
I mean, it's surgical. Like the precision is surgical for amazing educators. I thought so much about her dissecting her art to the degree that Tell Me More invited one thing and Tell Us More invited something else. That, to me, that says everything.
Yeah. Yes. There was one thing she said after that. Let me find it if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
In addition to the tell us more about that, she also offered that she would say to students, how does this connect to what the other student said? And I thought that was just magic. Because that's diving in almost more like putting yourself as an equal to the student by asking the question, but then teaching the child to do that. And I don't think, not a lot of people know how to do that. So the fact that that is happening in a classroom, I got very excited about that.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you can feel the web, the community trust, the community respect that gets woven with that type of precision. And you know what I was thinking about? Like, she is a very dynamic human. So I imagine she fills the room, and it would be effortless for her to center herself and use her dynamism, is that a word? To drive things forward. And the amount of intentionality and restraint that it has to take her to pull some of that just natural charisma back so that the people in the room's potential can fill that space instead of her charisma filling that space. Like, that is epic.
That's a really great point. And if she did center herself in that way, she'd have a room full of fans. And they would leave, on a high, but miss the opportunity to do the teaching and learning that's at her core, right?
Yeah.
So interesting. That's a
The,
great point.
the amount of groundedness, the amount of knowing yourself, the amount of like doing your own work around your own worth that you would have to do to not like tap into that drug of this is my show, everybody buy a ticket, is is a lot. And so it just tells me so much about her, even though we spent an hour together.
One thing that told me a lot about her, and I think explains this, anyone who says, I go into the state park and walk till I find myself again, knows how to check her ego at the door.
We automatically love you.
Yes, yes. There's so many things like that. I just
Yeah.
loved it, loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something really jumped out at me when she spoke about when you've done your job when you walk out of the classroom and your students no longer need you. And she actually put words to, it's the most heartwarming and the saddest thing. And there are just so many parallels in life, right? Your child going to college. For me, it was that weird thing that we've talked about the last few weeks, that I finished my radiation treatments and I became so connected to the people at radiation that I grieved them. But trust me, I don't want to go back to radiation. So I just understood that, or I guess I could feel it because from those experiences, I could put myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
But then that also made me realize that's a whole nother piece of complexity around the job that's so overlooked, that there's loss in that transition every single year for educators. That's hard.
That's hard.
Really hard.
Yeah, you're right. That doesn't get acknowledged enough.
No, and I wonder if that has anything to do with looping and the kind of the research and magic around that was new to me. But yeah, just tough.
And bittersweet,
Bittersweet. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
which is, life.
Right?
Okay. She was such a good storyteller. I loved the Trader Joe's story. And when he said, "No, really tell me why you didn't say something." And her capacity to know, it's because the story I was telling myself about you. I was thinking, like, if listeners just played with that one thing for the next 6 months, their whole lives would change. If you just dialed up your awareness around the story you're telling yourself about whoever you're interacting with and what that leads to in terms of interaction, connection, disconnection, whatever, it would be like such a self-awareness playground. Just that one question.
And make life more beautiful. I mean, I feel like even if you shift the story to one of beauty and positivity, like she did with the guy, and the reality was something negative, who cares? You
Right.
just made your own experience more lovely. So why not? Just try it. Like, there's no reason to do it the other way.
You made a case for hallucination and the pros of it, and I think it's a strong case. Well done. No, you're right. Like the torture chambers we put ourselves in, that we could step out of by shifting our perspective on someone and what their motives may or may not be. Even if we are erring on the side of positivity to a degree that doesn't align with the truth, but it frees us from that prison, hey, sign me up.
Just do it. Makes sense. That sort of segues into my next point. I thought it was interesting that she spoke about when she was younger, she was more focused on perfecting her craft, and that was where she was putting her energy. And then now that she's older, she's focused on searching for the goodness around her. That's another one that's like, why not? Why not? And I thought a lot about that Richard Rohr book that we've talked about before, Falling Upward, where they talk about first half of life is about pursuit and second half is, looking for meaning and such. And I just thought if kids could be taught to look for the goodness instead of thinking about striving, maybe they wouldn't have to wait to go to the midlife wisdom school when they're older, right? Like they're already just operating that way, and they're having a lovelier experience as a result.
That's so
And
nice.
so if educators are doing that around them, then they see it.
Yeah, they soak it up. Oh, kind of around that same point of, I thought it was so endearing when she was comparing her younger self and her now self, and you spoke to a piece of that. The other piece that really resonated, and there was a major through line the whole interview, was her love affair with listening. It was so compelling. It made me want to be a better listener. Like it made me think so much about that equation of how well and how wholeheartedly, dynamically you listen shapes the person you're listening to or the people you're listening to. It shapes you.
That was kind of around your conversation around micro moments and them being opportunities to do that and then open or close the other person. But it's funny that you said that felt challenging to you, because when I was listening to her, I was like, the only other person that comes to mind that does that well is you. I think that's one of your great gifts that you do that. And then I wondered, I wonder if that's why you run out of words by the end of the day and you're introverted, because you're always doing that for everybody around you. And I could see how that's exhausting cumulatively to be able to offer that to everybody who comes in contact with you, which you do.
Very nice to hear, and it's engaging with everyone you engage with from the perspective of sacred ground. And so it is taxing. It also gives more than it takes, but it's so much different. It's so different than going through life thinking of it as transactional. If you're going through life thinking of it as energy exchanges and sacred ground, and I feel like she does that 100%. In fact, I really liked her definition of monitoring and managing well-being as monitoring your energy, and I just thought that was so useful.
When I was watching your face when she started talking about that, I thought you were going to jump through the screen and hug her in like solidarity, because that's what you talk about all the time and do well, I might add. But yes,
I do want to hug her. You read that right. I definitely want to hug her.
I do. I felt like you were like listening to a symphony or something when she was talking about that. It was fun to watch. It was very fun to watch. But I do think that's a very, and you've taught me, this podcast has taught me to be more focused on what she was saying about monitoring your own energy. And I loved how she said monitor energy as a practice of being, so we can listen to ourselves and be in control of our choices. That's a challenge. It's a great challenge.
Every time you read something back about her words, it affirms what you said at the very beginning. Like everything is so succinct and so potent.
It's part of why I love to watch the interview and then read the transcript because I also love words. I don't have the mastery of words like she does, but I love words. And so when I was reading, I just felt like she was so poetic. Like every statement could be a line from a Robert Frost poem or something. It's really inspiring.
I wonder if she writes poetry. We should ask her.
If not, she should.
She should, yeah.
This is back to her love affair with listening. I loved how she spoke about sitting with uncomfortable silence. And that's something that felt like a personal challenge for me going forward, having listened to her, and specifically like not starting to formulate any kind of response, but just letting there be the uncomfortable silence, like naming it uncomfortable silence, and that's okay. And that should be there if you are a master listener.
Yeah, because what gets crowded out when we're over functioning around silence, like a lot.
And typically that has made me uncomfortable. So I try to steer and, fix it. And I really felt challenged by the invitation to try that.
Oh, I love that. Have you had a chance to yet, or that's a go forward plan?
I just did. Just kidding.
Beautiful. I felt very comfortable.
If we weren't on a podcast, I would have stretched it out longer just to be funny. But probably a go forward challenge. Yes.
That was funny. I liked it.
Thanks. I try.
Listen, an enormous amount of grad school when you're learning to be a therapist is spent helping you dissect and understand your relationship with silence.
This explains a lot about you.
Yeah, and theater is not different, like, because that was my undergrad, and we also spent a lot of time learning, what's said and the unsaid, and
I love that.
yeah, good training grounds for
It's good stuff.
just being a human. What else is on your list?
This is another poetic statement I felt like. Center yourself in the messiness of your humanity, not in your perfection. And I've just been thinking so much about perfectionism lately and how it hides in our lives. For me personally, I feel like it causes paralysis. So I thought that I had already worked with my perfectionism and kicked it to the curb. But I think the reality is I just pushed it somewhere, and then that's caused me to like sit on the sidelines from trying certain things, booking a trip because I don't want to get it wrong, or writing a song because I can't, or you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I love that. I love those words, center yourself in the messiness of your humanity. It's another invitation to get in the game.
And the ripple out effect of someone illustrating what that looks like, and that the world does not end, and in fact you love her more for her capacity to do it, not less. It is that whole liberation for one translates to liberation for all, big time.
She also spoke about when you do that, or this is how I heard it anyway. She said you elevate all of us to being learners. I love thinking about that way. See, there's that word learning again. Like she paired teaching and learning as a two-way. Anyway, I loved that.
Was it at that same time that she talked about like extending true freedom? No, it was a little bit of a different spot. It was when she was talking about invitation always staying open. that also was just like that generosity of spirit, that not allowing other people's life circumstances to be defined through the lens of what you think it means if they ... Like, I'm making it way more messy and not fun to listen to compared to what she did, but the concept was so it was so lovely. Like it made me think about psychological safety, and the psychological safety she must have the capacity to create in the program and in her relationships.
Completely like that jumped out for me too. And this was another place where I was surprised by her word choice. And because she said she brought love into the picture. And to me, anyone who can be as commanding and own their craft, own their words, and then you bring love into it, I just geek out over that. But she specifically said, if you decide you need to leave, I don't love you any less. If you decide this isn't for you, I don't love you any less. So I just love that she brought those words in. And if that's the kind of wording that she's choosing to use in front of people, I mean, research shows, right? They want to be there more. They feel safer, all the things. I just thought it was brave and bold.
Brave and bold, and it gets right at the heart of what drives us unconsciously, which is, if I do this, will I lose your love? We got right to it.
Got right to it.
How about when she said that she came to understand that the plan is not more important than presence?
Yes, I loved it. And that she's committed to making the most honest choice for what's right in front of me. And I know I say this, I feel like a broken record, but it took me back to learning about pronoia, that the universe is working in your favor. It's exactly what she's doing. She's trusting, and she's managing her energy and making sure she's in a place to listen to herself, trusting in herself, having courage to trust in herself, and then trusting that it's all going to work out.
And it so is, because it already is for her and for all the people around her. And yeah.
She has so much to teach.
Yeah, I'm going to be cheering her on from the sidelines for the rest of my life, even if I don't ever have any more details. I just believe in her inherent soul's journey. Like, I just think she's doing it. She's doing the thing.
Doing it. One kind of close to the last point that I would like to make is I thought it was sad but offered a challenge when she spoke about the impact of not feeling like people trust you as an educator, and that you naturally start self-censoring. Then of course you're not going to enjoy your craft as much. The kids are not going to enjoy their experience as much. It just made me sort of think, well, just if you can, be a rebel and don't censor yourself. And it specifically brought up a story when my mom was in education and they put the mandate out that you couldn't hug kids, and she just chose to ignore it because she felt like that was wrong, and she did that. I think Pernille Ripp is another great example that we've had on, where she just dissected her craft and which things were non-negotiables for her. And I'm sure sitting here from my home office making that suggestion, it's easier said than done. But I just felt like her, Sarah, bringing that point to light did offer a bit of an opportunity to challenge that habit to self-censor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. It's sort of like if you're feeling that, of course you are. And can you look for those pockets of freedom within a dynamic that is oppressive
Right.
and lean into those? I'm done, so you keep going.
This is the last point, and I think it's a great one to close on. Her message to educators, and she did not skip a beat when you asked that question. You are not alone, even though you feel like you are. That makes me tear up. And I feel like one thing I learned from her is that when you feel that way, she offered some strategies to combat that, reminding, just kind of a reminder that the goodness outweighs the bad and to shift focus from the bad to the goodness. I thought that was beautiful, and I think that's what we're trying to do with our podcast and with our magazine. The stories that we're telling, the people that we're bringing on, these are the good stories. These are the positive stories. So can we shift our focus there? Also, the monitoring our own energy practice so that we can listen to ourselves and be in control of our choices. And then finally, let's do this in community. And she talked about, she had to leave her district, her state, to find that community. Again, that's what we're working to create here, the Oxygen for Educators community, where people can come so that they don't feel like they're alone. So that was, I think, those three strategies just offered a lovely action plan for when you're feeling alone.
And the concreteness of her running club example of that for her, she had to go do something that wasn't comfortable at first. And it wasn't magical. It wasn't like a light switch. It took some time before it was like, oh, this really is life-changing. That's so helpful. And I loved her example that she had it on her calendar for a long time before I've done that too, of things I want to try, and I'll put every time they meet on the calendar, and I'll watch it go by 6 months and I'll never go. Finally, I take it off my calendar and move on down the road, but she didn't.
I wondered if you were about to fib and say you leave your house and go to all these activities.
Yeah, no one's going to buy that at this point.
Well, I'm so grateful that Rebecca Peterson crossed our path so that we found Sarah and that she agreed to come on. I feel like I learned so much, and I am forever grateful.
Yeah, same here. She was a huge, huge gift. And as are you, and as are our listeners, and we will catch everybody next time.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to use their own judgment and seek appropriate professional support when needed. Oxygen for Educators, its host and production partners are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast.